Hello, everyone. Before starting the video, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thanks. In a previous video, I showed you that how you can reset or restore your RUCKUS access point via web browser. In this video, I will now show you that how you will reset or restore your RUCKUS access point via SSH command line interface. To reset a RUCKUS access point via SSH, we will need the following application and information as prerequisites. 1. SSH client application to access a network device, like RUCKUS access point in this case. 2. The user must be logged into the laptop or PC with administrator account or an account with assigned administrative privileges. 3. Current IP address of the RUCKUS access point. 4. Current login credentials of the RUCKUS access point, means username and password. 5. Default IP address of the RUCKUS access point. 6. Default login credentials of the RUCKUS access point, means username and password. What is SSH? I will not go into the details about SSH here in this video, but I will only tell you briefly that, what basically SSH is, and what we use SSH for. Actually, SSH, also known as Secure Shell, is a network communication protocol that allows users or administrators to remotely access a network device via secure line, or we can say, via a secure way, over an unsecured network, provided that the network device, which we will be accessing, must support SSH. In simple words, it will provide encryption, while communicating with a network device. Having said that, our communication with a network device will not be in a plaintext format, but it will be secured and encrypted. After accessing the network device, a user or an administrator can execute commands and make changes on that network device. To access a network device, a user must have an SSH client application on the PC. Although recent versions of Windows have built-in SSH client service, but to make this video simple, I will use a third-party client application called PuTTY. What is PuTTY? PuTTY is the recommended application to use for many purposes, like connecting to a network device using SSH and Telnet etc. from the Windows operating system. And it is also very easy to download, install and use. We can use this application on any Windows operating system, which is installed on our machine. So without wasting further time, let's proceed. Step number 1. Download and install PuTTY application on Windows. First of all, I will show you how to download the PuTTY application for your operating system. To download the PuTTY application, I will open the web or internet browser, and then go to www.google.com. In the search box, I will simply type PuTTY download and hit the Enter button. Now open the top link www.putty.org, which is the official web page for PuTTY application. You will see the basic introduction of this application. I will now click on the link which says Download PuTTY. On this page, you will find different versions of this application for different versions of operating systems. I mean, you can download this app for 32-bit and 64-bit operating systems accordingly. Since I have Windows 64-bit installed on my laptop, so I will download the 64-bit version of this application. I will now click on the link which is for 64-bit operating system. The download process will begin. Wait for the download process to complete. After the download process is completed, I will go to the download directory and will try to install the application. Right-click on the application file and then click on the Install option. The installation process will start. Click on the Next button. Here it shows the default installation directory for this application. We can change the default location if we want to. I will leave it as it is and click on the Next button. On this page, I will select the option to create a shortcut on the desktop. Then click on the Install button. The installation process has been completed. Uncheck the option which says View README and then click on the Finish button. You can see the shortcut on the desktop, which means step number 1 has been completed and the application is installed successfully. Now we will proceed towards step number 2. Step number 2. Check the connectivity with the access point. In this step, we will continuously check the connectivity with the access point. Here, we will be working on 2 different networks. 1, my test network which is 10.0.2.x with subnet mask 255.255.254.0. My laptop and the access point are connected to my test network and both the devices also have assigned the same network's IP addresses. 2. Default network of the RUCKUS AP which is 192.168.0.x with subnet mask 255.255.255.0. We will be working on this network after restoring the access point to its factory default settings. So, for the ease of accessibility and management, I will add an additional IP address from the default network of RUCKUS access point to my laptop's Ethernet. It does not matter, either we assign this additional IP address to our PC's Ethernet in the beginning or after restoring the access point. In any case we will need this additional IP address. I will show you later on in this video, that why did I add this additional IP address. So, to assign an additional IP address to my laptop's Ethernet, I will go to the Network and Internet settings. Then click on the Change Adapter options. Since I am connecting to my network via Ethernet port, so, I will double-click on the Ethernet. Click on the Properties button. Select Internet Protocol version 4 option and then click on the Properties button. You can also double-click on the Internet Protocol version 4 option. Since I am using this laptop on my test network, that is the reason my test network's IP address is already assigned. To assign an additional IP address, I will click on the Advanced button. Now click on the Add button. Here, I will add an IP address of the RUCKUS AP's default network as an additional IP address. I will enter the IP address 192.168.0.10 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. You may enter any IP address by changing the last octet. Remember, do not assign the first IP address of the RUCKUS AP's default network, which is 192.168.0.1. Because this IP address is the default IP address of the RUCKUS access point. So to avoid the conflict later on, do not assign the first IP address of the RUCKUS default network. After entering the IP address, click on the Add button. You can see that now my laptop has 2 different IP addresses, from 2 different networks that I mentioned before. click on the OK button. Again, click on the OK button. Click on the Close button to close the settings page. I will now open the CMD and I will start pinging continuously both the IP addresses, I mean the current IP address of my RUCKUS access point, which is 10.0.2.40, and the default IP address of the RUCKUS access point, which is 192.168.0.1. The default IP address will be assigned after restoring the access point, provided that there is no DHCP server on the same network. I will type the ping command with -t switch to continuously ping the current IP address of the access point. You can see that I am getting response from the access point, which means that the access point is alive and connected to the network. Now, I will open another CMD and, in the same way, I will start pinging the default IP address of the RUCKUS access point as well. I am doing this because I want you to see everything side by side. You can see that I am getting no response from the default IP address of the RUCKUS access point. This is because the access point is not yet restored. Now, I will go towards the next step and I will show you the current configurations of the access point. Step number 3. Checking the current configurations of the access point. In this step, first I will show you the current configurations of my RUCKUS R510 access point that I made on this access point. Later on, after resetting the access point, once again, I will show you the configurations to make sure that everything has been restored successfully to factory default settings. Now, to show you the current configurations of the access point, I will open Internet browser and I will enter the full address like https:// followed by the current IP address of the AP and then hit the Enter button. Click on the Advanced button. Now click on the link which says Proceed to, followed by the AP's IP address. The login page will appear. Here, I will enter the current credentials, I mean, the current username and the password. After entering the credentials, I will click on the Login button to log into the Web Management Interface. This is the Web Management Interface. Let me show you few configurations that I have made on this access point. As you can see that, I have changed the default device name and the default device location. If I click on the Internet option under the Configuration tab, here, we can see that I have changed the default IP address of the access point from dynamic to static. We will be accessing the access point using this IP address. I will log out from here and I will minimize the browser. Step number 4. Restore or reset the access point via SSH command line interface. Now the actual process begins. I will open the PuTTY application. To open the PuTTY application, I will right-click on the shortcut, which is on the desktop. And then I will click on the option, Run as Administrator. The PuTTY application is open now. First of all, make sure that the SSH option is selected. Then in the hostname or IP address box, type the current IP address of the access point. SSH port number. This is the default SSH port number, which is 22. If you have changed the default SSH port on the access point, then enter that port number. Since I haven't changed the default port for SSH, that is why I will leave it as it is. After entering the IP address and the SSH port number, I will click on the Open button. After clicking on the Open button, the SSH will try to connect to the access point and will establish a session. As you see here, it says Login as. Means it is waiting for the user's input. We can type anything here we want to, or we can leave it empty as well. It does not matter. I say that I am logging in as RUCKUS, so I will type RUCKUS and then press the Enter button. Here you can see, it says, please login, means it is asking for the actual credentials, so here I will type the username first, which is super, and then I will press the Enter button. Now you can see it is asking for the password. So, I will type the current password and then I hit the Enter button. As you can see, I logged in successfully. So, now to reset or restore the access point via SSH command line interface, there is a simple command to be executed. That command is set factory. I will enter the command set factory, followed by pressing the Enter button. It says that factory defaults will take effect after reboot, and then it says OK, means that the command has been applied, but it won't be executed until and unless the AP is rebooted. Now, to reboot the access point, I will type a command reboot and then I press the Enter button. Now the access point will be restored to factory default settings after reboot process is completed. Meanwhile, you can see that the PuTTY application has stopped responding. Because the access point is rebooting now, that is why the session has been disconnected. We can also see that the LED lights on the access point will go red, which means the access point is rebooting now, and that is the reason response from the current IP address of the access point has been stopped as well. So we will wait until and unless the access point is rebooted successfully and gets into the stable mode. We will wait for the response from both the IP addresses. The LED lights on the access point are green now, which means that access point has been rebooted, and in a few seconds it will get into the stable mode. We are now started getting response from the default IP address, but there is still no response from the IP address 10.0.2.40. Which means that the access point has been restored to factory default settings, and that is why the IP address 10.0.2.40 has stopped responding. Step number 5. Reconfirmation of the factory default settings via web browser. I will once again open the web browser, and I will try to access the access point using the static IP address. But I will not be able to access the access point with its static IP address. Why is that? Because the access point has been restored. To make sure that the access point has really been restored to factory default settings, I will open another tab and will try to access the access point with the default IP address, which is 192.168.0.1. So, I will type the full URL address like https://192.168.0.1 and then press the Enter button. Click on the Advanced button. Then click on the link which says Proceed to, followed by the IP address. Here we are. You can see that the login page has been accessed using the default IP address. I will first try to log in with the old credentials, where the username was the same as the default username, super, but I had changed the password. So I will enter the username as super, but I enter the old password which I used before restoring the access point. You will see that the old credentials are no more recognized by the access point. Now, I will enter the default credentials, so in the username field, I will type super. And, in the password field, I will type sp-admin, which are the default credentials of the RUCKUS access point, and then I will click on the Login button. We will see that it will redirect me to another page. Here it will ask me to change the default password. This is just for security reasons. So I will now type the new password and then retype the new password again for confirmation. I will press the Submit button. Upon pressing the Submit button, it will take me back to the login page again, so that I will log in with the new credentials. Here, I will now use the default username, which is super, but this time I will use the new password, which I just changed a few seconds before. Then I will click on the Login button. I have logged in successfully. Here you can see that, after restoring the access point, the default device name has been restored to its default name and the location as well. If I click on the Internet option, under the Configuration tab, we will see that there is no static IP address and it has been changed from static to the default dynamic IP address. Note: it is very important to note down that, upon restoring the access point to its default factory settings, when it reboots, it will search for the IP address on the same network from the DHCP server. If there is any DHCP server configured on the same network, then it will get an IP address from there. So, we will then first search for the assigned IP address to our access point from the DHCP server, which will again take our time while searching for the IP address assigned by the DHCP server. Since it is the test environment and there is no DHCP server configured on my test network, so I have no problem with that. The recommended way is to connect the access point directly to the PC while restoring to default factory settings, so that the access point will get no IP address from the DHCP server but the default IP address. I will log out from here and I will close the web browser now. That's it. We have successfully restored our RUCKUS R510 access point to its default factory settings via SSH command line interface. If you like my video, then please, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching the video and giving us your precious time. Next video. How to hard reset a RUCKUS access point. Hey! If you found this video helpful, then don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel. If you have any query, leave it in the comments section below. Thanks.